Hi, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for stopping by. I am super excited to share this idea with you all in hopes that this can help somebody out. This is an idea that I came up with in the middle of the night and brought it to life. So there's a lot of crafters out there that we use self-healing craft mats or maybe a glass mat, and I'm sure lots of us have seen the new magnetic mats that are being offered. Now, I own both a self-healing craft mat, which is this black one here. This one I purchased off Amazon years and years ago. It's 18 by 24. I also have a glass mat that I love to work on, which is also 18 by 24. But the black mat that you see here is the one that I like to film with because it doesn't give the glare from my lights above. I have a ring light right above me. And actually I own two of these black identical self-healing craft mats. The one here that I'm showing you is pretty distressed. I can't get rid of it. I've had it in the back of my closet, and I like to pull that out when I'm working on a project, maybe a little bit more of a messy project. So I turn these into magnetic mats at probably an eighth of the cost. So here I'm just demonstrating how it works. I got these magnets off Amazon. Those were approximately $7 a piece, and they're super strong magnets. I also have some magnets in my stash that I will be using as well with these mats, but these are made for coats. They're made to hang coats from, purses from, and supposedly they can hold 170 pounds worth of weight, which they are very strong. So I'm excited to kind of walk you through this process. You need very minimal supplies if you already own a craft mat. And what these are great for is, like I show here, is maybe gluing down a sentiment that you have. Now, I normally would add glue to the back of my sentiment and add all of those acrylic blocks to the top. Where I came up with this idea is the other day I was putting a card front onto my card base, and I had to tape it down to my workstation to hold it in place so it didn't move, so I could get, like I'm using this example, this black piece here, positioned correctly to the center of my card. So these magnets are great because you can just pop them down. Normally this is how I would do it. And here's a card I was making last week where I did tape it down, because on my glass mat or this mat, I tape it down to kind of hold it in place so I can get that in the center. If I can use my scoreboard, I will use that. But if you're putting something where you have a matting around it, then you can't butt it up into that corner. So you need your card base not to move around on you in order to keep it in place. So these magnets are the perfect solution. So there's a lot of glass magnetic mats out there. Anna Griffin has one. Simon Says Stamp has one. You can find them on Amazon. You can go to Glassboard Studio and find them, but they're all over $100. Simon Says Stamp has one that's $55, which I actually own, but it's only a 9 by 12. I did not want to invest more money into mats when I have perfectly good mats at home. So like I showed that previous video footage, when I was working on a card last week, I thought to myself that the magnets would be super nice so I didn't have to tape my card base down. Or like I'm showing you here, to use a stencil, you can just use the magnets to keep it in position while you're stenciling. So I went on and I looked at the prices, and the Glassboard Studio for the same size that I have is $140. So that's a lot of money. I paid approximately $30 for my glass mat from Michael's about 10 years ago, maybe. And so I just didn't want to invest any more money into another glass mat. So when I went to bed that night, I was thinking about it. And like I said, I woke up in the middle of the night with the idea of turning mine into magnetic mats. So I've never seen anybody else do this before. Some of you may have. There may be a better way, but I'm going to share the process that worked for me. I talked to my husband about it the next day. He knew exactly what we needed to do. So we went to Home Depot, bought some galvanized steel, and then I had some Gorilla Tape at home that I had previously purchased from Walmart. I use that in my craft room all the time. It's super thick tape. And I also had those little rubber stoppers. Those are, I believe, Command Hook brand. And I'm bringing in here, I also have a Tonic Studio mat that I still use, but I don't like to use it in video for the same reason that it shows my ring light camera head and my overhead lighting. But I turned this one into a magnet as well to use on the other side of my craft room. So this was super simple to do and turned out really well. The difference of the craft mat that you see is, as I mentioned earlier, I own 2 of the exact same self-healing craft mats. So I just sandwiched that steel in between them. If you do not own 2 craft mats that you can sandwich together, what I would suggest is adhering down the steel on the back of it, taping it down, and putting a piece of felt over the back of it just to cover it so it's hiding those possibly sharp edges of the steel, and it also won't scratch up your workstation. This way it's magnetized on both sides. I have a more distressed side that if I'm working maybe a more yucky, messy project, I can flip it over and use that side. Or for filming, I can use the prettier side, the cleaner side. And that steel is sandwiched in between there. So for the other ones that are open on the bottom, that's why I added the tape around it, just to make sure there were no sharp corners. To adhere everything down, I use the E6000. If you're going to replicate this project, get the E6000 with the large lid, not the tiny fine tube. Get the wide tube. And then here's the Gorilla Tape in 1 inch. And these are the rubber stoppers. These are made by Command, and they're used for cabinets or drawer stoppers. I like having those in my stash. At Home Depot, they sell this steel in 2 different ways. So they have smaller pieces in the nuts and bolts section, at least at my Home Depot. They sell them in 1x1 sheets or 12x12 or 12x24 sheets. So it's going to depend on what you need for the size craft mat that you already have and that you want to repurpose and turn into a magnetic mat. So like this one here is 12x24. The mat I was working with is 18x24. So I needed either 2 pieces of this and cut it down, or if you don't have a way to cut this, you can just use that piece. It's just if you have a larger craft mat, your entire mat will not be magnetized. So for a piece of 12x12, it's $10.47 currently at Home Depot. So my husband had the idea to go back to the back of the store where they sell flashing, and we found a piece for much cheaper that is 24x36. So we got that for $15.93. I ended up going back the next day and buying another one because I wanted to turn all my mats into magnetic mats. So if you have a way to cut this down, then you can get the larger piece. With this piece here, I was able to do 2 craft mats. And like I said, I went back the next day and bought another piece. So my husband just marked it down the middle. He used some steel snips that he had and just cut it. He also did cut corners off the edges just to avoid any sharp edges. And it comes very dusty, or at least mine did from Home Depot. So I used a little bit of 409, dusted everything off, and then used E6000. And I use a lot of E6000. So I'm only showing the process for the black craft mat. We adhered that down to the back of it. I did use my brayer to press it down. Then we added another layer of E6000 and sandwiched the mat on top of it. Again, after dusting it to make sure everything was clean so it adhered well. And then my husband put a heavy box and also a case of water just to really hold it in place overnight so it had the chance to dry. And we also did this out in the garage because that E6000 does have a little bit of a strong odor in my opinion. I also added a few clips around the edges of it. I'm not sure if that was necessary. So here's a couple of the photos of the glass mat, the back of the glass mat. As you can see, the corners may be a little bit sharp. That's why I went around with my Gorilla Tape to all the edges. So when you're picking it up, moving it around, you don't accidentally catch your fingers on the edge of it. And then the feet at the bottom will help it to stay in place on your workstation. So I hope you found this useful. I will link a video to my craft room tour if you're interested in seeing that. And if you do end up making one of these, please tag me on social media, leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this project. I absolutely love doing things like this at such a savings when I already had most of the supplies in my craft room. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me a comment and consider subscribing to my channel. Have a great day.